another ceasefire came and went. Not happening, but almost, but maybe we'll see. On Friday, Joe Biden announced just televised, big announcement. Things are happening. He says this war needs to end in Gaza, or genocide more correctly. And he announced a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas that actually neither party had agreed to. It was a little awkward, but it was an Israeli proposal. Just that Israel wasn't ready to like talk about it yet. They were just, so they kind of were put on blast by Biden, which immediately made them recoil from this proposal. So unclear whether this worked, but in this unexpected announcement, according to The Guardian, Biden urged Hamas to come to the table. But the speech was not coordinated in advance with Israeli officials and is widely believed to have aimed at reluctant elements of the Israeli leadership. And in fact, that Israeli leadership is the radical right-wing coalition, ultra-nationalist ministers Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich, who are attacking Netanyahu since Biden's speech and threatening to leave the coalition and topple the government if the proposal turns into agreement. Once again, if anyone doesn't know Netanyahu's like origin story, his shit, his thing, it's always appeasing the right. He's Trump in that way, right? He finds political openings, usually having to do with the killing and maiming of Palestinians, and appeases the far right and does what they want, goes negative against someone like, former Prime Minister Rabin, and then Rabin ends up assassinated by the Israeli right. Cool. But anyway, so this is Biden. It shit backfired on him. Here's a smattering of headlines. No Gaza ceasefire until Israel war aims achieve, Netanyahu says. Two far-right Israeli ministers are threatening again, as we just said, to topple the government. Netanyahu insists on Hamas's destruction as part of the plan to end the Gaza war. And, quote, we will not accept the rule of Hamas in Gaza at any stage. So it seems like Biden sort of jumped the gun. That being said, here, what was in the actual like ceasefire agreement, phase 1 is basically like an prisoner exchange, hostage exchange for Palestinian prisoners, like happened in, I believe, December of last year. And then phase 2, and this is according to The Guardian, it involves same sort of wishful thinking. This was a great op-ed. Carefully chosen words could bridge the divide between Hamas's demand that cessation of hostilities be permanent and Israel's insistence that the war must continue up until Hamas's destruction. So basically, phase 2 is a big old question mark. But that's, once again, we're in this, hey, why can't we all come to the table? This is great. And Netanyahu being like, no, I never said that. I'm not coming to the table. And Joe Biden recently admitted that this is effectively a strategy that Netanyahu is employing in order to remain in power. And that means, everyone in Gaza must die in order for his political career to survive. Anyway, Will, I thought we might have had it. I thought maybe Biden had something there. He doesn't have red lines, but I feel like maybe he had like a deal at some point.
No, and it's also it's beyond Netanyahu's political career, because it's like he's been indicted, I think, on like 3 really serious fraud charges. And it's like it's not just his political career. He's like trying to stay out of jail. It's essentially a quasi Trump situation where it's like, well, as long as I am in power and the head of this wartime government, I can't really be prosecuted for this. So he's like doing everything he can to hang around. But it's also just like, it's absolute clown shit from this administration. It doesn't, I don't believe anything they say. I don't believe, because it like absolutely does not matter. This is like the dozenth time they've come out and said something, and then as quickly as possible, the Israeli government has responded either through words or actions to make it clear that this is not the case and they will not be participating in what was just said. And it's like, it's pathetic. It's the kind of thing right before an election, the president being like, I need to make sure I look as weak as possible on the international stage. And I'm not some like Reagan-esque guy where I'm like, we need to look strong on the international stage, but they are. And this does the opposite of seeming of like, oh, we need to look tough on immigration. All these things they talk about looking tough on. And this, they could not look more weak and pathetic than they do in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, like, the one difference, like, Trump would be definitely worse in some ways. I mean, he would relish in that there would be no failed peer attempt at humanitarian aid. There's shades of difference, but I think it's interesting to think, like, Trump would absolutely, like, boast and own the amount of death and, like, would not let it look like it was Netanyahu's idea. He's like, "Nah, it's my idea. Let's go. Let's go. Go genocide." Like, which at least is strength. Like, it's a picture of strength to do that. It's a picture of strength to be openly bloodthirsty, and it's a picture of weakness to, like, want the bloodshed to stop but have literally be unwilling to do anything in your power to stop it.
It makes you angrier. It's like it's watching someone be that pathetic. It like is the most angering thing where it's just like you have almost all of the cards in this situation and you are acting like a kicked dog. Like this
Yeah,
is humiliating to watch you behave this way and insist you have no other options than to behave this way.
Max.
Right. I mean, like, yeah, I mean, there's so much to address there, but I'll try to kind of address it sequentially. Like to folks who are like, yeah, kidding themselves into thinking that in a second term, Trump would have acted any differently here. If that's obviously absurd. I mean, he moved the embassy to Jerusalem. Like he would rush headlong into it. He did during his first administration.
Yes.
Everything he could to support Netanyahu, would have been wholly on board with this. However, I think one thing that may be different is that, as with Biden, like seeing the increasing unpopularity of this war, seeing the, majority of Americans seeing this as a genocide. Like, I think that may be enough to pressure Trump to, as we know, he's loyal to no one. He may drop Netanyahu like a bad habit because he's more concerned for himself. It's like Godzilla fighting Mothra in a sense. Like Trump's self-interest may, in fact, drive him to could, if he was in term right now, I could see a scenario where that would drive him to change course in a way that Biden absolutely refuses to, not for good reasons, but like the results would be different. But yeah, Biden I would encourage folks to read the great Adam Johnson's latest column on the Real News Network that we published this week about the failed humanitarian pier in Gaza and how it's a perfect encapsulation of the Biden policy throughout this entire war. Like, it generated tons of good headlines for Biden by credulous media that was like willing to just, buy into the hype without seeing any results. It cost like over $320 million, delivered virtually no aid to Palestinians, and then it summarily collapsed into the sea this past week. But like, as Adam Johnson argues, like for all intents and purposes, it was a failure. But in terms of generating positive headlines for Biden and giving the Israeli government and the complicit US government more cover while more Palestinians are being slaughtered, like that is the policy from October 7th to now, is create enough discourse, distraction, and half-assed policies, or pretend like leaking to press that Biden's out there wagging his
But
finger.
he's secretly angry. Oh, real mad. Biggest mad
ridiculous.
yet.
All the while, a population has been obliterated. Like the damage has already been done. The Gaza is gone. People are dead. Generations gone or traumatized. Like, and now we're still fumbling around hoping for a ceasefire. Like that's the playbook.
Right.
Keep
I mean,
fumbling,
ceasefire
keep
is
hoping.
like so on the floor right now. But interestingly, Hamas said it was positive. It was ready to respond to the proposal positively and constructively. And let's just go back to like remembering what Hamas would like. They'd like an end to the hostilities. They would like an end to the genocide. They would like a ceasefire. What does Israel want? The obliteration of Hamas. Like, Hamas isn't like, there really needs to be a regime change in Israel. No, that's what some Democrats are saying, even though they turn around and have just invited Netanyahu, in the case of Senator Chuck Schumer, invited him to speak to Congress on July 15th. So that's coming up. That's fun. Everyone can look forward to that. But like, it is just so funny that Hamas is like, hey, no, just we're cool with ceasefire, we're good with ceasefire. We don't need to wipe Israel off the map like Zionists accuse us of. And Zionists are like, no, we need to wipe Gazans off the map. Every single Hamas militant is worth 300 civilians along with it. Doing the math, it's pretty much 2 million people, which is the population of Gaza. So let's keep going. And we all know that the number of casualties is severely underreported. And I think in part that is because actually the Gaza Ministry of Health, which even Biden was saying was bullshit, actually is very conservative with estimates, because only when a body can be fully identified will they say that that person was a casualty. But there are bits and pieces of bodies that no one can identify because they have been maimed beyond recognition. And those are not being put into these casualty counts. So it is absolutely sickening, the numbers that I know that are going to come out if and when there is an end to this. What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/bitchuation room. Do